Gemini is an awesome little twin-stick shooter from QUByte Interactive. As Modi tells you in the beginning, the enemies don't really care about you, they just want to destroy the gem. And that's the entire game. So, if you guys have ever played a twin-stick shooter, you know what to expect here. You move with the left stick, aim with the right, and you use the ZR trigger to use your weapon. The controls feel great, your character is responsive, and the hit boxes are super tight. Speaking of weapons, you have a lot to choose from. Small swords, big swords, magic staffs, magic books, boomerangs, hammers, spears, and snowballs. Which sounds funny, but don't mess. Snowballs are an awesome weapon. Every weapon has physical damage, but some include a couple of status elements. For example, the snowballs have okay damage output, but they also freeze enemies, making them move slower. This makes snowballs ideal for levels with higher amounts of enemies. You also get a poison scepter that, as I'm sure you already guessed, poisons enemies, and there are weapons that reduce enemy defense. Pro tip: get the demon book as fast as you can. Its firing rate is insanely fast. Literally, the game says so. It costs very little mana, and the bullets have tracking. It's a little purple death machine. Along with your weapons, there are different types of hats you can equip. They all have unique bonuses that affect your speed, HP, mana, attack power, critical rate, and attack speed, with some providing you with area-specific perks like keeping you from sliding in the ice world, helping you to see in the underground, and protecting you from magma in the underworld. Some equipment is dropped by enemies, others you can purchase in the shop. Along with equipment, the shop also sells permanent stat increases. You have speed, HP, and attack boosts for your personal stats, as well as HP increases for your crystal, making it more durable. Every time you beat a level, the inventory of the shop is updated, but if you find yourself with insufficient funds, don't worry. You can return to any level previously beaten and grind for gold. I found myself doing this frequently throughout the game, and since I was constantly getting new equipment and upgrades, it never felt old. Gemini is broken up into 5 areas: Overworld, Iceworld, Desert, Underground, and Underworld. Each one of these 5 areas is broken into 5 stages. The first 4 stages of each are all similar. There are 5 waves of enemies: kill them before they destroy your gem, collect gold, repeat. The 5th stage is a little different. You have 4 waves of enemies, followed by the area's boss. The boss fights are the best part of the game. They have rad designs and they're fun to fight. They have patterns that are easy to recognize but difficult to master, with a lot of the strategy being finding the right combination of weapons and equipment needed to beat them. The downside to this being every time you challenge a boss, you have to fight through the first 4 waves of enemies. Every time. So, the process of finding the right combination of hat and weapon has the added complication of also having to carry you through the first 4 waves of the level. And the equipment best suited for the boss isn't always the best for the several waves of crowd control leading up to it. But this was a minor downside. It doesn't do the game any favors, but it's not a deal breaker. It never made me want to stop playing the game. Besides that, the only other problem I had with the game was actually the fault of the Switch. The first boss you encounter has an area of effect attack that I couldn't see in handheld mode. Once I docked the Switch and played on a larger display, I realized, wow, I was dying. I really like the art style QUByte went with. All of the pixel art is really well done and it's full of personality. And it's the little details that make this game so charming. Like, it goes out of its way to give everything its own identity. The zombie enemies are a good example. In the overworld, they're just normal zombies. In the ice world, they have earmuffs. In the desert, they're mummies. They even designed the nameplates of the different worlds to reflect the environments. It's small details like that most developers ignore. QUByte did a great job with the chiptune soundtrack. It really complements the pixel art graphics. Most of the tracks are catchy and upbeat and really well produced, but the downside is there's a limited number of them. I never got tired of any of the tracks, but they did start to lose their luster after grinding for gold trying to buy upgrades. Overall, Gemini is an enjoyable little indie title. If you have an aversion to repetitive gameplay or games with grinding, this may not be for you, but if you're a fan of pixel art, chiptune, or dual stick shooters, then this is a no-brainer. Like my most recent review, Clash Force, it's a great game to have downloaded for when you have a little time to kill or you need something to play while you're listening to a podcast.